Hello! Welcome to the body of the Kirk. Please find your way into the Starmers. We call the pews in this particular body of the Kirk the Starmers because they're hard on your derriere. So, welcome. I haven't worked out what I'm going to say tonight yet. Welcome. Welcome one and all. We have hibiscus. And if anybody asks, tonic water. Welcome. Right, yeah, wrong. Let's get into it. Sorry, I need to do just something to organize myself. Oh, bagger. Sorry. That one. Right. I'm just rearranging things so that that's it. Let me have a look. Right, okay. Which way? That one. We'll do that, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do that. So, welcome to the body of the Kirk. I do hope you're well. I do hope life is it's 2026. Let me just get this because it's bloody cold. And what else do I need? That is it. So tonight, what we're going to do? We're going to do stuff. Just before I came on air. Now, technically, this is not on air. Technically, this is online. So all those wannabes that want to have done radio, you're not on air, you're online. And tonight it's going to be, well, literally just before I came on air, online. Reform are suing Labour for delaying the elections. And seemingly, we're coming for you, says Farage and Reform to Labour. We are going to talk about this political clown show this evening. So we're going to talk about distractions, because you're being distracted. But as is my want in 2026, I'm going to lead you. I'm not just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff to inform you, because there's other people can do that. I'm going to remain the clarity in the chaos. I'm going to remain that calm voice that can cut through the fog with my katana, and metaphorical katana, of course. And I want to bring many things here for you so that you get clarity, so that you can, I'll give you the information and then the takeaways so that you can go to other people and say, this, truth, fact. And other people can, oh, where did you get that from? Oh, this guy online that keeps predicting things that keep coming true. And it's not, and I don't want to get to, I told you so, because that's just, that's very kind, Neil. Well, good to have you in the body of the Kirk, by the way, Neil. You've been missed. So, welcome. Thank you. Hang on, let me just do something while I'm kind of, right, it's one of those. Thank you, Neil. Always appreciated. Thank you for your continued support. Always. I did notice the ad been around. Just saying. So what I'm kind of, now that we're getting into the rhythm of 2026, what I'm attempting to do. Hang on a second. Who was in the body of the Kirk first earlier? I knew there was somebody. It was Stuart. As ever, Stuart. I'll be with you in a second. So rather than kind of, Johnny Big Bollocks, I'm not, sorry, Johnny Big Rollocks. I am going to try and temper my my language, my Tourette's, because when I get angry, it kicks in. But I don't want to get angry. I want to kind of give you insight and context and understanding with what I talk about. And again, this is not me being preachy or trying to be learned. I just want the people that support the channel just by being in the body of the Kirk will get stuff and understanding. I mean, I know Des has already passed a comment. Des is on it. Des is always on it, as is most of the people in the comments. So the 2026 is going to be wild. I mean, proper wild. What am I talking about? Well, as we sort of do these lives, I missed doing Monday, and I'll tell you what's kind of going on with these. It's almost as if I could do 2 lives a day at the moment with the amount of stuff that's going on. Now, I don't know whether you want 2 lives a day or whether you want a daily briefing as to where we are with stuff, and then as the day progresses, a live at the end of the day. As much as these lives are fun, they take a lot of preparing and scripting and, just note taking. And like today, I watched PMQs for 35 minutes, and that's 35 minutes I'll never get back again. I mean, it couldn't have been more dull, apart from, well, we'll kind of talk about it, but was anybody else feeling queasy when Queer Starmer, because he's queer as folk, Mr. U-turn, 13, unlucky for some, mate, he was talking about the Kama Sutra. More positions than the Kama Sutra. And I was like, oh, you mucky tart. I'm not having that. Starmer, man. It's like your grandma and your granddad, your nana and papa, your nanny, well, however you kind of term them, the grandparents having a snog. You'd be like, ew. So it was like Starmer talking about the Kama Sutra. And I was like, no, that's completely unnecessary. And it just made me feel ill. Kemi not good enough. She's definitely not good enough. Today it was not good enough. So doing a lot of things for the live to get a grip of what's going on in the media. I'm bringing my media experience. Look, I started broadcasting in 1979. It's a long while. So I started when I was 2, before you start. I want to bring that experience working in radio and television and newspapers. I've been a magazine editor and a writer for newspapers. So I want to bring all of that, because that gives me a unique perspective over a lot of other people. And, other people can have theirs, but I want to bring my uniqueness to this channel in 2026. I've had enough practice for a couple of years, just kind of getting it on. So for 5 minutes, and I know I was late coming to for the parish notes, but it's, I need some tonic water. And thank you for everyone's very kind comments on X and on here and on Facebook. So basically, Monday I had to cancel the live because I couldn't see anything. They put drops in your eyes that make your pupils go massive. I know some people that normally do Charlie or Speed for that, but that put drops in to scan the back of your eyes. Retinopathy. Those that have got diabetes know what I'm talking about. Put the drops in. 5 minutes later, oh, they're not working. Okay, then. Put some more in. Oh, one of them's working. Well, put another bit in the other one then. Oh, not sure about that. So I ended up having like loads of drops in my eyes. And and I had to leave and use public transport. You're not allowed to drive afterwards. I had to use public transport for the first time in bloody hell. Is that public transport? And the fact was that I had to get on the bus. And I'm not making light of this at all, but I couldn't even see the number on the front of the bus. My eyes were so blurry. Anyway, I was home, blurry eyes, couldn't see anything, couldn't give a a good enough account of myself in the evening. So I thought, rest your eyes. Got it. And let me just take care of some business. It's always good to see the regulars. Okay. I will get to it in a second. I will welcome everyone just very quickly. Yeah. Thank you for the heads up, big lad. In the words of the great Chinese philosopher. So welcome to everyone. Welcome to the Enigma Blue, and I see you, and Reg D, and Sandra Whittam. I know I need it's my birthday at the end of the month, so I'm hoping I will have a red and white scarf. I have got a couple of Sunderland scarves, obviously, but they're a bit short. I like them long. I'm a bit of a size queen. So Andrew James and Stephen Hall and Matthew Wheden and Mike, and there's Neil in the body of the Kirk. Fantastic. Les Griffiths, Penny Hen. Oh, Penny Hen. Good evening, Penny Hen. Welcome to the body of the Kirk. And to everyone else, I will get round to just saying hello. Paulie Gallieri. At least Grok still lets you dress Sir Keir Starmer up as Jimmy. Paulie, you're a complete not a wrong un. I mean, there's me thinking, hang on a second. So Sir Keir Starmer is complaining about Grok putting people in bikinis, but is doing nothing about the rape gangs up north. So Clockwork Orange, Revs. So Andrew, I say. Enigma Blue, how's your eyes now? Well, they're still on either side of my nose, and it's kind of it's there, and it's going to need an operation on both eyes. So a couple of brief daily updates as well as the current lives would be brilliant. Thank you, Les. TNW31, yeah, I picked up on that. I'm not quite sure what that was. No sooner than look at a squirmer than I want to puke. Oh, I know. Amalia, I'm with you. Oh, just talking about the bloody Kama Sutra. Ugh, with all those deviants and perverts in his big palace. And there's Fat Lad Lammy. Or I should really call him not so fat Lammy, because he's losing it. How many U-turns can Starmer make? Louise Hampson. 13 at the last count, Louise. It's just right. Let's get on with this. Because I've got bits I want to talk about tonight. Garen Davis, you bet you're sweet, baby. So it's cataracts, basically, and the cataracts are right over my pupil. So with the glasses on, I'm fine. With eye drops in, I'm not. So it looks like, I said to the optometrist, I said, well, all right, then, right, okay. But I thought I used to watch Tarzan as a young boy, and it was always the bright sunshine of the African desert that caused cataracts. And now, bloody hell, the amount of people that have got cataracts and having to have operations. I mean, it's a moneymaker. It's a proper moneymaker. Trial by jury U-turn 2. Gribbo, is that 14? They haven't on trial by jury, have they? I mean, I do believe that, as we kind of get into the live tonight, I do believe that they just spout shite, this Labour government, and then they realise that the people don't want that, so they kind of go, oh, what we're going to do, they're not going to elect us at the next general election, what we're going to do, and then Sir Keir gets his instructions from Davos, which he's going to next week. Trust me, I will be telling you which Fabians are going to be at the World Economic Forum next week, from the 19th to the 23rd. And I kind of already told you, I'm working on a little video of some of my videos and pictures of Davos from while I was there, because I normally land on the day after the World Economic Forum finishes. This year, I'm not going out. I've got other stuff to do. No mandatory digital ID, but in my view, it's not about the app or the card. It's about the infrastructure and the database. Will Holmes, I'm so glad, Will, that you've been watching these lives. Starmer needs a cataract operation, then he'd see what a bollocks he's making of everything. Brilliant, Neil. Brilliant. Yeah, he does. Then he'd be able to tell the difference between a man and a woman. We all can. Ron Ely was my Tarzan. Oh, Soul Rebel, I was with you. Ron Ely was, well, it was Johnny Weissmuller. It was kind of early doors. But Tarzan, Ron Ely was, he was a good-looking swine. I mean, clothes on and off. Good-looking boy. And he just, it was the quicksand in Tarzan that normally did me. I was like, oh, quicksand, you're not going to get out. You're going to die. You're going to die. It's the African jungle. And now the wise advice is, you find yourself in quicksand, don't move. Crew Kern Gazette have Starmer as Davros in their videos. Brilliant, Matthew. I've seen the Crew Kern Gazette, some of their videos. TBT is a frequent buyer too. Hang on a second. Is she... Lex Barker was my Tarzan. Fatal racing driver. Lex Barker, was he one of the first ones? I'm not sure. I know Lex Barker. Tabloid Tracer, I'd love to see Kia Air Miles' statement. It's all free. It's not his Air Miles. He's using somebody else's. Anyway. So tonight, we're going to take a step back because there's all this shouting and noise and stuff going on. But what I want to do is I want to look at the bigger architecture of power. So we're going to take a look at the Clintons. Oh, my word, the Clintons. You're going to jail. You're going to jail. The warrant's been issued. Killary. Is it Killary? I mean, some people are saying it's a clone. I mean, you wouldn't make a clone that ugly, surely. So it's not just today's headlines. I mean, I will talk about stuff generally in the headlines because it's just Jackanori. But I want to talk about the bigger architecture of power, reform, the Clintons, digital ID. And what I'm going to do for you tonight, what I've been working on all day, is I'm going to give you the answer. I'm going to give you takeaways. I'm going to give you understanding in everything. So there's going to be stuff that you probably haven't got a grasp of, but I'm going to give you that tonight and the grasp of. So if we have time, we will get to the New World Order because it's in place. But I want to do digital ID and explain to you what exactly is going on. So then you will understand what's happening with the New World Order. If we don't get to that, then I will have to do it either tomorrow or Friday or Saturday. But what I want to do first is I want to talk about distraction, because just for your entertainment, no Venezuela, no Epstein files. I'm going to make a prediction for you, right? This is a very clear prediction. Ghislaine Maxwell's going to be Epsteined. I think she's been in jail six years. So, Ghislaine Maxwell, they do it very slowly. Big wheels grind very slowly, certainly in judicial senses. But I just have a feeling that Ghislaine Maxwell is going to be no more before we get to the end of 2026. I wish her long life and good health, obviously, that she'd be being looked after in her yoga camp. But no Epstein files, no Venezuela. So let's talk about distraction. Not just the stuff that pulls our eyes for a moment, but the patterns underneath this distraction. Kind of, for want of a better term, the gravity wells of the modern media cosmos. You might have noticed that a few weeks ago, Venezuela was front page news. In fact, front page news, it was the only bloody story in town. And then, poof, it was gone. Iran, headline drama, it's gone. They're trying to keep it in the news. It's gone. And then, Greenland. Oh, yes, Greenland. It's gone. You know, if you're wondering what Greenland is, it's not the colour, it's that Arctic island that only earlier this week was somehow the hottest geopolitical real estate pitch of 2026. I mean, he said he was going after it, and evidently he is. He means it. And now, barely a blip. So, Epstein. Knock, knock. Owner? Epstein. Epstein who? Be that bloke that's in South America getting some facial reconstruction. I mean, of course, the endless carousel of Trump headlines that dominates print at the minute screens and feeds like some relentless supernova in the media universe. I do hope his health stands up. But here's the thing. None of this stuff actually goes away just because it drops off page one. I don't even think I've got me... no, that's not it. Oh, sorry. Oh, I say. It's giving a bit of a tug. And while I'm live... But here's the thing. None of this stuff actually goes away. Just because it drops off page one, it just gets buried by something louder, flashier, more sensational. It's not an accident. That's strategy. There's a term for it amongst political operators, the dead cat strategy. Throw out a big, shocking story so people look there instead of where the pain actually is, over there. It's like a shell game with real-world consequences, and it's not limited to one politician, one country, or one side of the aisle of the body of the Kirk. Here in GB, the Grande Bretagne, we saw how election coverage focused disproportionately on two parties. And did you see Ed Davey at PMQs today? What an irrelevance that man is. You see, he hasn't got a bandwagon to jump on, so he just sounds dull and irrelevant. The namby-pamby-pingo Liberals, they're dead as a political party. Now, those two parties, or the Uniparty, they drowned out the real diversity of voices voters actually supported. Now, that's not just bias, that's a framing device, directing attention like a spotlight in the theatre, darling. But why do they do it? Well, because distraction is actually power. Control the story, you control the narrative. If the public, that's me and you, by the way, is always reacting to the next big thing, size queen, we're never actually thinking about the real thing. We don't discuss systematic issues. We don't interrogate long-term strategy. We're left chasing shadows. Ninja. We become reflexive rather than reflective. Emphasis on the wrong syllable, Adrian. I mean, look at how the US Greenland saga spiked and then normalised. The Orange Man, DJT, President Trump, 47, he's also 45, by the way, fresh off direct action in Venezuela, pivoted to Greenland with bombast, America must have it. At his age, he'd be lucky. A statement so wild it reminded everyone of the 19th century imperial fantasies. But what's happening behind the headline? There are deep strategic interests. Chagos Islands? I think that's another flip-flop. Another flip-flop. U-turn. How do you make a U-turn? Dunno. Give us a pair of wellies and I'll make its eyes water. So, there's the economic levers, the tariffs, geopolitical chess pieces most people don't see because they're too busy reading the OMG Greenland takeover headlines. Or they're watching Strictly. or Britain's Got Talent, or some other vacuous, superficial shite. And now, in just a week, nearly all of this gets folded into the Davos circus. 19th to the 23rd. It's a global stage where presidents, prime ministers, finance honchos, and chief executive officers swap sound bites under the theme of dialogue, while real economic tensions loom largest in the world risk matrix. Now, I will tell you this. Rachel Reeves wasn't at PMQs today. She'll be in Davos for the week, as she was last January for the full week, not only with begging bowl out, but taking her instructions. And Starmer, you know, that oft-quoted, oh, where would you rather be, Westminster or Davos? Davos! Told you before. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I've told you before. When they roll into town, I mean, I've seen the security. The security is very tight. Very, and there's only one road in and one road out. It's really simple. There's only one train in. It goes up and then it comes back down again. It doesn't kind of go round and round and round a bit. And there's loads of helicopters go there. They land on the local hockey pitch, I think it is. So they all get there because they all want to be seen. It's like promenading, darling. I've got the latest suit from Italy. I've got this, I've got that, and I'm powerful because my motorcade is longer than yours. Told you before, China runs Davos, the week of the World Economic Forum. The locals are complaining. But as I've been telling you, that Trump's agenda, whilst he's in Davos, he's going to present, I think, on the Wednesday afternoon at 2:30. It will be live on the World Economic Forum website, which I will watch, so you don't have to. And he's then hosting a private dinner in the evening. Now, I will tell you that the first time he went there, a few years ago, when he was 45, President 45, some of his family were there. Because this is not about, the levers of power, but it's about making money. It's about the Benjamins. Power, yes. Most powerful country on planet Earth. China owns, is it 40% of America's debt? China's not going to have a good 2026, and neither's Russia. And that's why El Trump war is trying to maneuver himself. But what will come out of Davos and the World Economic Forum is that those experts that are attending, they actually name economic conflict, not military war, as the greatest global risk in the next 2 years. Economic conflict. It's not about World War III. It's not going to happen. There will be skirmishes, I am absolutely sure. So, help's on the way to Iran. The mullahs are not going to take that. They're just going to kill people. Who the bloody hell is America? Telling you. And I made this prediction in 2025. Iran might have a bit of a spat, certainly with Israel, but nobody, including anybody in the body of the Kirk, actually mentioned the fact that Bibi Netanyahu was with Trump in between Christmas and New Year. Now, the Israelis don't actually celebrate Christmas. It's Hanukkah. I think Hanukkah finished at the same time as this Christmas of 2025. Stephen Hall says, money and power. Stephen Hall, I remember you saying that the US were after Venezuela. Yeah, it's just the central banks. So what you have now, not to kind of circle backwards, is you have the central banks of Iraq and Syria already in the control of the Rothschilds. You're getting Venezuela and Iran. So they want all of this done by 2030. They're so close to the finish line. Central bank digital currencies, central banks, they're so close to the finish line where they will control the whole of finance. So the experts are saying that the next conflict, it's going to be economic. It's not going to be a military war. So increasing tariffs, trade weaponization, resource rivalries, stuff that actually affects global stability. But very few front pages will say that tomorrow. They won't. And they no longer put Farage and Reform on the front pages because Labour, literally, you can smell the brown stuff running down their metaphorical political legs. The Parliamentary Labour Party, dear Lord, they're going to have bungs shoved up their derriere to stop them crapping themselves. Because every time there's a PMQ, Starmer mentions Reform. Every single time. But why? So let's get back to the World Economic Forum, which is coming up in Davos. Davos is a distraction in velvet gloves. It's a week where everyone with any kind of clout gets to hobnob. I prefer them with chocolate on, though. Gossip and shift the narratives that they want to control before the cameras. I keep saying to you, why do people keep making these speeches in the rain outside number 10? Why do they keep saying this to the camera so it's all on the news agenda? So anybody outside of the country who's telling them what to do, Davos and the World Economic Forum, can watch Starmer say, not very happy, having to wear a bikini. I suppose it's better than a gimp mask. And guess who's going to be at the centre of it all? 19th to the 23rd. Trump. And the Fabians and the socialist leaders and Labour from Europe. All talking economic certainty. Yes. We're going to raise taxes. Utter rollicks. Whilst they're talking these rollicks, the real structural risks sit just below the fold. And make no mistake about this happens in every media ecosystem. Scroll politics isn't just about what's seen, it's about what isn't seen. We have the 77th Brigade. We have a government that is literally just controlling the whole media ecosystem to within an inch of its life. Algorithms curate, feeds flatten, attention is harvested. People get less informed, more reactive, and those in power get precisely what they want, a completely distracted public. I've told you about the moral indignation. All of a sudden people are like, oh my God, have you seen this or that? There's no water cooler moment anymore. I don't know whether you speak to people at work or in the pub or the workmen's club or wherever you interact with other human beings, or with the family for that matter. You'll talk about, like, the shite in life. But politics is affecting every single facet of your life. And now they're saying, the great unwashed, that's me and you, we are the least politically aware. And I'm thinking, are these people talking to the right people here? The audience here on the Theatre of the Mind, you're all switched on, you know what's what, you come here for kind of a briefing and to catch up with stuff. But there's a cruel irony in all of this. I don't know whether you do. In fact, I'm going to ask you a question. 1 for yes, 2 for no. I wasn't, but I'm going to. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Do you think you are more informed than ever before? 2026, the beginning of 2026. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Do you feel that you are more informed than ever before? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Des Ashton says, I yearn for a leader, not a politician. Hang on a second, who said that? 1 no from Derek Holdsworth. Evening, Derek. Welcome to the body of the Kirk. Everybody's saying yes. So Will Holmes and Davy Bevan and the All Bovril and Lewis and Stephen Hall and Elliot and Legalista and Sandra and Garin, Tom Harneys and Super Ted, Fatal Racing Driver, Comic Mania, all saying yes. They believe that they are more informed than ever before. And if you think about it, How many times are you with people? And Sandra says no. How many times are you with people and the phones are going off? Another alert, another alert, another alert. Our phones are buzzing. Our TVs flash. Our timelines are crowded with headlines. Every 5 bloody minutes there's a new update from the BBC or GB News or Sky News. But we're swimming in noise. Not wisdom, noise. And when Iran's internal protests surge, seemingly there's going to be a hanging soon, if not today, over 2,000 people have died because the system in Iran says, no, you're not allowed to do that. Thousands killed, a communications blackout, as Elon put his Wi-Fi thingy into Iran. But he's not been allowed to do that. How many people know that because they were too distracted by the next political stunt, the gravity of these moments is eclipsed by media flashbulbs? You're not being told anything that the people that are manipulating the news media with, you're distracted and they're distracting you. You're not actually getting to the meat of it. And that's what I'm going to try and do tonight. So let me be clear. Distraction isn't random. It's not chaos. It's a mechanism. A circus wheel that keeps you looking at the shiny, the sensational, the superficial, vacuous, superficial shite. It keeps you from the underlying rhythms of power, economic conflict, resource wars, structural inequality, the real levers that shape the world that you and I live in. So tonight, we're going to slow down. What I'm going to try to do for you is peel back the layers. Not because the news is meaningless, it's very meaningful, but because the order of the headlines, the timing of the stories, the angles that they choose, that's where the real story is. So tonight, let's drop the noise. Stuart says, speaking of notifications, I got one from ITV News saying government U-turns on mandatory digital ID cards. Well, I am going to, thank you, Stuart. So tonight I'm going to turn down the noise, turn down the hype, although you can't hype these videos according to YouTube. And I'm actually going to talk about what matters. So if the biggest stories in the world can literally disappear overnight, the only time that I've ever seen that in real time is when somebody posted on the old Twitter that a certain member of the royal family loves being pegged. Don't Google it. Don't. Christ knows what images you'll get. But I think it was, well, what can I... legally, the sand is shifting, Adrian. We suggest that you move on quite quickly. So certain members of the royal family were being pegged. That went onto X, and it was all over. And then it was late on a Friday evening. And then I thought, oh, I can't read any more of this. I'm going to go to bed. Next morning, the whole of the internet had been sanitized. Now, don't tell me this great amorphous mass, the internet, you're not allowed to sanitize that. If you've got the money and or the power, yes, you can. I mean, there's other members of the royal family that have starred in blue movies. You mean you've never seen it? Them skills. But all I'm going to say is this. When somebody is upset with another member of the royal family, these films keep appearing online. And then when the person that's the movie star pipes down, they disappear again. For God's sake, how many blue movies do you know is being made on a yacht? Me neither. So ask yourself this question. Who decides what I are allowed to notice and what must stay invisible? Pegging. So when the headlines change this fast, are we witnessing chaos or choreography? What if distraction isn't the failure of the media, but its most successful product? Rusty's Roamings, good to see you, Rusty's Roamings. Mike Graham was interviewing a doctor yesterday who had written a book about the jibber jabber. What an eye opener. Well, it's all coming out now. Well, Mike's not, obviously. Work with him at Talk 107. Evening, Mike. You're wrong. This pegging, it didn't happen at a Diddy party, did it? Les, there's every chance, because there was at least three royals that I'm aware of that went to Diddy parties. But I shan't say any more than that. Oh, you wrong, and what on earth are you doing? You can't say that, what-o? So, do you mind if I've got two very explosive pieces I want to talk to you about. One's the Clintons. You're going to jail. You're going to jail. Oh, Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's evil, abject evil, in my view, obviously. But I'm waiting for my hibiscus to cool down. Just doing that for a sore throat. So we'll do the Clintons now, and then we're going to get to digital ID. And I'm going to give you layer and takeaways around digital ID. It's going to take your breath away. Because I'll explain it so that you've got understanding. That's all I want, context and understanding for you. And me, for that matter. So I don't know whether you've seen this 4-page letter from William Jefferson and Hillary Clinton's lawyers to James Comer today. It's tied to the House Oversight Committee, and it's Epstein-related deposition subpoenas. Now, I've told you before, Epstein's still alive. He was videoed on Epstein Island. He's still alive. Don't believe what they're telling you. It's brown stuff. Do you think that if Mossad was running an intel asset like Epstein, he would be killed in prison? He's too valuable to them. And where have all the videotapes gone? There's terabytes worth of videos gone. Surprisingly missing. They're not coming out. Mind you, neither did Epstein. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and just kind of in passing while I get into the Clintons, is Mandy Mandelson. I'm a gay man. What would I know about what he was up to? Well, wasn't there rumour that Epstein didn't know whether he was Arthur or Martha? Epstein liked the old... So it wouldn't matter if Mandelson was gay or straight. Epstein was into it all. I've told you before, the old Roman legions. Women for procreation, men for recreation. So let me tell you about the Clintons. This is not a Senate hearing, it's a House oversight. And this is the 4-page letter, is a lawyer's letter, not sworn testimony. So what I'm going to attempt to do, rather than read you this, oh dear Lord, my eyes. I read it earlier a couple of times and I was thinking, oh, how dull is this? Let's just get to the exciting bits, which is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to read it all here, because it's just bollocks. So I'm going to explain to you what this letter is, who wrote it, and why it's now being shared. So the author of this letter is the Clinton counsel. It's called David Kendall. And he's the guy named in the document. But they've sent this letter to James Comer, the House Oversight. And the purpose of this letter is to say, in essence, we're not showing up for an in-person testimony. So, Foxtrot Oscar, we're not coming in. Your subpoenas are invalid, but in the spirit of entente cordiale, have you ever heard the Americans trying to speak French? language of power in Europe. What they said is, we'll offer written sworn declarations, certifications as an accommodation. That's very kind of them. So why the confusion about 4 pages? Lots of news outlets are covering it now. They're summarising it that way, a 4-page letter. The PDF copy circulating can appear longer depending on the formatting. But what the letter argues, the spine of it, they're saying that James Comer and the Oversight Committee have no valid legislative purpose. It's not, and I quote, pertinent. It leans on Supreme Court limits on congressional investigations and argues the committee is probing private affairs rather than legislation. So, William Jefferson, oh man, Monica, look what you've done on your dress, man. Can you not get that dry cleaned? Oh, don't worry, Mr. President, it'll be stiff soon. Well, if you kiss it, it will. Oh, your dress. So, El Presidente, William Jefferson Clinton, and former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, they've already provided the limited information they possess about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to the committee. They did so proactively and voluntarily. And despite the fact that the subpoenas are invalid and legally unenforceable and untethered to a valid legislative purpose, thereby unwarranted because they do not seek pertinent information and an unprecedented infringement on the separation of powers. I've had my powers separated once. Oh, blimey, it took me a week to recover. So in this letter, the lawyers argue that the Oversight Committee have no constitutional authority to compel testimony here. They say the inquiry, don't worry, I'm kind of running this so that you get the top level. You get the understanding of what all this brown stuff is all about. And then I'm going to pick it apart so you can laugh your cap off and burst your incontinence pants. So the Clintons say that the inquiry is not tied to any legitimate legislation, but instead targets private individuals for exposure and political theatre, darling, theatre. Therefore, the subpoenas are described as invalid and unenforceable. You want me to decode that? Okay. This isn't we won't answer, it's you don't get to ask. I'll say that again. Basically, the Clintons have fired a shot over the bow of the Oversight Committee and said, metaphorically, this isn't we won't answer, we've been accommodating. It's just you don't get to ask us any questions. I mean, they've said we've already provided what we know, claims that they've already given the limited information they have about Epstein and Maxwell to the committee. And as the record shows, the committee's attempt to compel in-person testimony from President and Secretary Clinton runs afoul of the clearly defined limitations on Congress investigative power propounded by the Supreme Court of the United States. The fact is, underscored by the committee's very different treatment of witnesses who genuinely possess information relevant to the stated purpose of its inquiry, unlike President and Secretary Clinton, which affirms that these subpoenas for in-person testimony are intended to obtain something other than information with a nexus to the committee's legislative objective. So basically, the Clintons have told them, Foxtrot Oscar, we're not coming in, we've given you as much as we know, we're not going to give any live testimony because we've told you and we're not allowing you to ask us any unfortunate questions about Monica Lewinsky. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. So a wank in the Oval Office then, Bill. How did that one go? Was it a blowjob? See, I can say this, you can't in the comments because YouTube will ban you. Well, not ban you, they'll just stop you from saying it. So this is all pursuant to the traditional process for managing specific legal and fairness. These objections that they've issued here, they're just basically going, wait, highway and shite, or whatever they say in Little Rock, Arkansas. So the Clintons through counsel say they will not appear live, in person. Instead, they offer to provide sworn written certifications or declarations responding to the committee's questions. They argue it's enough, sufficient, reasonable, and consistent with past precedent, not president. So what does all that brown stuff mean? No follow-ups, no cross-examination, no unscripted moment. Now, I'm not going to say whether I believe them to be guilty or innocent. I'm not going to say anything other than looks a bit sus, in my view. Because if you're innocent, what have you got to hide? You could look at a kind of harassment, embarrassment angle. So the push for in-person depositions is about spectacle and political damage, not the facts. And what about the separation of powers vibe? Well, frames compelled testimony from a former president, Secretary of State, as constitutionally fraught. No better word for it. They offer an out to the committee. They'll certify written declarations instead of appearing. But a little spicy footnote. It references marital privilege as a shield against questions about private spousal conversations. So what this is power versus power. It's oversight theatre, darling, versus legal parameter. So let me tell you what this letter really is. And I had to go through some of the kind of paraphrasing the legalese because it's very dull, very, very dull. But now that I've set that particular stall out, I can then start digging deeper. For legal reasons, I can start digging now. So what this letter, the 4-page letter, really is, it isn't correspondence. It's a preemptive parameter fence. Yes, we've already acknowledged that it's written by lawyers on behalf of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, addressed to James Comer. But the letter does 3 things at once. Refuses the substance, no in-person testimony. Controls the optics, we're cooperating on our terms. And future-proofs legally. So anything that follows is already boxed off. So I would suggest to you, and remember back in December 2024, I told you that Jeffrey Epstein was going to make an appearance in 2025, and I could hear you laughing in the comments. I could hear you laughing. You're not laughing now, are you? So I would suggest to you this is not necessarily about the Epstein facts. I would suggest to you it's about jurisdiction, precedent, if you want to pronounce it that way, so we can differentiate between President and President Clinton, and containment. So let's have a look at the unspoken or hidden architecture of the letter. So let's decode the moves that matter, because I promise you, it's going to get bumpy. Buckle up, buttercup, and grab your popcorn, because this is, well, it should be front page of every single newspaper worldwide, because it's yes, political theatre, or just Obama's next, Bathhouse Barry and Big Mike, they're getting it, seemingly. I wonder if Epstein had that on video. So let's decode the moves that matter, the ones lawyers write for judges, not journalists. So, 1, invalid subpoena. It isn't defiance, it's positioning. Now, they argue that the committee lacks a legitimate legislative purpose. Or in other words, you're making this shit up, man. So that phrase is not casual. It's a Supreme Court tripwire. Translation: if this ever reaches a courtroom, we want the judge already leaning our way. So they've written the letter for third-party scrutiny, namely a judge in a court of law. It's not, we won't comply. It's, your authority doesn't reach us constitutionally. And the offer in the letter? The offer is the trap. They don't say, no. They say, well, we'll give you certified written statements. Why does that matter? Written statements, 0 follow-ups. No follow-ups, no narrative shift. No narrative drift. No drift, no viral moment, no headline bleed. This is cooperation without exposure. It's like turning up to court behind one-way glass. Now, this marital privilege is a bit of a bombshell. It's the quiet nuclear option. Buried in the letter is a reference to spousal privilege. In my view, that's enormous. What does it mean? Well, anything one Clinton told the other privately is completely off limits. Oh, bloody hell, Bill, what you been doing, shagging those girls again? Oh, sorry, darling. Well, Jeffrey decided to have this painting painted of me in a blue dress in red shoes, and he's got it above his desk in his office. What? Darling, I've no idea. I have no idea. Bill, what you been up to? Not Monica Lewinsky again? I did not have sexual relations with that girl. Well, you spunked on a dress, Bill. What's that then? Oh, hair trigger problems. William? So even questions about those conversations can be blocked. It forecloses a completely entire avenue of inquiry before it starts. And they're not just protecting facts, they're protecting memory itself. So I know the first question on your lips is this: why now, Adrian? So why now matters? Any Epstein material could re-enter the cycle. Now, we've got an election year coming up, the midterms. So as election year scrutiny ramps up, as committees are racing the clock, this is tempo control. And the Clintons and the legal bods know that Congress runs on momentum. If you slow that down with lawyers, you kill the oxygen. So this letter isn't about Epstein. It's about power refusing to be placed under a spotlight. So when the powerful say, we'll answer in writing, what they're really saying is, we decide what reality you're allowed to see. Oh, and one final truth. And this is the quiet one. If this was clean, they'd testify. If it were trivial, they'd ignore it. If it was false, they'd deny it plainly. Instead, they lawyered it. And lawyering is what you do when the facts are less dangerous than the questions. And the deeper pattern is this: you're not watching resistance, you're watching ritualized compliance. The modern way power bows without kneeling. When institutions are confident, they testify. When they're innocent, they answer plainly. When they're nervous, they allow process and procedure. They proceduralize, if you want the big word. This 4-page letter is a textbook example of process as armor. No denial, no confession, delay, diffusion, deflection. That's the three-step dance. And why does this matter beyond Bill and Hillary? You see, it's not about personalities. It's almost precedent. If former executive power can reject live oversight, substitute sworn theatre for sworn scrutiny, and invoke privilege before facts are even established, then oversight becomes ceremonial, not corrective. Congress asks questions. Power decides how they're allowed to be asked. That inversion is the actual story here. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people think accountability dies with lies. It doesn't. It dies with administrative fog. When everything is legal, procedural, certified, notarized, truth doesn't vanish. It just becomes unreachable, like a lighthouse wrapped in paperwork. So this letter isn't arrogance. It's anxiety dressed as legality. Because when power is certain, it's clean. It speaks plainly. And when it isn't, it sends the lawyers in. In this case, the dog didn't bark. And that itself is telling. And what's interesting is what isn't in this letter. There's no denial, there's no timeline, no sworn testimony, and no invocation of marital privilege, because they don't need it yet. Or they'll keep some of their gunpowder dry, but as I've reiterated all the way through this, why have they responded like this? Before I get to digital ID, I'm just going to explain the Labour Party to you. As I say, it's PMQs on a Wednesday, and it's just theatre. It just doesn't matter. But now, Farage and Reform are suing the Labour government. And who are the Labour multimillionaires? Labour. A bunch of rich people convincing poor people to vote for rich people by telling the poor people that other rich people are the reason that they're poor. They're all multi-millionaires. Jeremy Corbyn. Jesus, I wish I was a fiver behind him. But this meme, Labour, a bunch of rich people convincing poor people to vote for rich people by telling the poor people that other rich people are the reason that they're poor. Rachel from accounts, anyone? Now this does three things at once. It collapses class theatre, and it points out, correctly, that much of the Labour leadership class is wealthy, well-connected, and culturally elite. That's not controversial anymore. It's observable. And we're now exposing narrative substitution. What I've just told you isn't denying inequality. It accuses Labour of misdirecting blame, not the system, not structural incentives, not global capital flows, but a different set of villains, often vaguely defined. It also suggests that Labour no longer represents working people. Doesn't represent me and you. That's why all these folk are going over to Farage and Reform, or the Greens, not the Lib Dems. Ed Davey's irrelevant. So Labour doesn't represent me and you as the working man and woman anymore. It just markets outrage to us. Packaging anger, as I've been telling you on this channel, selling explanations and harvesting votes from certain communities. That's why it lands. It feels less like an argument and more like a pattern recognition moment. And why is that strong? Well, I told you about the Labour Party. Because it's capturing the trust collapse between traditional Labour voters and the modern Labour machine. Blame Blair and Mandy Mandelson. 1997, when they got into power, Tony Blair killed this country. Tony Blair killed the Labour Party. I told you before you voted, whether you did or didn't, for Sir Keir Starmer. If you vote for Starmer, you get Blair. And what this take on the new Labour Party, it's not New Labour, the new Labour Party, because it's in complete and utter chaos and disarray. It reflects a real sense that politics has become curated empathy, if that makes any sense, rather than lived experience. They're like machines, they're like robots that have no empathy or compassion to themselves. They're just in it for the Benjamins. They're just in it for the money. Wealthy millionaires telling you the reason why you're poor is other wealthy millionaires made you poor, not them. Now, they've been in power for 18 months. They can't keep going on about the 14 years of Tory mismanagement. We get that. That was our lived experience. They didn't have to tell that. They didn't have to reiterate that to us because we get that. We just know when we're looking down the barrel of a gun, metaphorical, obviously. These idiots are telling us. I mean, the statement about the Labour Party being multimillionaires and blaming other people for our poverty resonates with people who feel talked at, not spoken with. So in short, Labour multimillionaires, they're simply weaponizing the feeling of being managed. But here's the bit that gets skipped in the share and nod culture that we're now part of. It flattens Labour into a single caricature, ignoring internal fractures. It assumes voters are passive marks, not strategic or cynical in their own right. And it quietly implies that no redistribution or reform is possible without hypocrisy, which leads to political paralysis. And the deeper truth? What I told you about the Labour Party and the multimillionaires is not about Labour per se, but it's actually about this feeling. And I quote, and you can quote me on this, "No one in power actually lives like me anymore." Do you think Starmer and his £2,000 pair of glasses from Lord Alley, do you think that being able to use a billionaire's apartments, flats, houses is somebody that's living like you with a cost of living crisis, with your energy bills going through the roof, heating or eating? Do you think they live like you? There's Ginger Growler, me. How many houses, how many flats, how many places to live does she need? But you see where they're taking us. No one in power actually lives like me is a very dangerous place. So once that belief sets in, every party becomes suspect, the uniparty, and politics turns into a shell game of elites accusing other elites on your behalf. Oh yeah, we're the Labour Party, we're the party of the working man and woman, are they? Rollocks. See, that is a danger zone for democracy. Because when people stop believing that anyone is speaking for them, as in you and I simply stop listening. Or we start listening to whomever sounds least rehearsed. Right, let me take some of your... Let's have a look. Interesting. Stephen Hall absolutely nails it. Never seen a poor socialist. Hang on, Rusty's roamings. Too many Tories in reform now. Now, the point that I want to make before we go to digital ID, or I start talking about it, is I believe that Nigel Farage and reform have made a huge misstep. What I'm going to do in a video, I may save it for Sunday, is I've looked at Zahawi's fact. And what we collectively went through from 2020, March 2020, for 2 or 3 years, certainly the last 5, it wasn't great. That's a euphemistic understatement. Not great. And yet reform, who were the great white hope, to use a boxing analogy, they've brought somebody who was ball deep in jibber jabbers and money and the moving around of wealth. So I will make you another prediction. If reform do manage to get into power, and after these last 3 days, Farage has just made a massive boo-boo. Humongous. In fact, he's dropped a bollock the size of Greenland. Have a word with his orange mate. There's a chance he might not get in. Or his party. And that's a shame, because people were just living for hope. We just hoped that there was somebody with some integrity, a leader that would come along and say, right, we've had enough of them. Let's get on and make this country great again. But if he's just going to use the orange man's playbook, it's not going to succeed, because already the cracks are beginning to show. Just in the last 3 days, 2026 could see the demise of reform, because the people are not stupid anymore. We're awake, and we're awake to the brown stuff that comes out of politicians' mouths. And as I said to you last week, all politicians lie. All of them. Because they're in politics, yes, for the power, but it's all about the Benjamins. There's Nigel. He couldn't have a Coots bank account because he didn't have enough money. Oh, fan my brow. He does now. How does that work then? That's so funny, Lewis. I just live for me next slice of Battenberg. Me too, Lewis. Brothers from another mother. I'm voting Ben, Habib or Rupert Lowe now, says Comic Mania. If the wind's blowing in the right direction, I hope that we have something... No, I'm not going to tempt fate. But somebody said to me, you need to get Ben Habib on. We're on the case. Because democracy is about ideas and people subscribing to those ideas, and then those ideas become actions, and actions come to fruition for the benefit of the greater good, which is the working man and woman, you and I. Oh, hang on a second. Farage is the smartest MP in Parliament since Thatcher. He will outsmart the naysayers. Dio Povrel, what, Zahawi? You think that's a genius idea? I think it's Zahawi going in is possibly going to breach the dam. Not at first. And it's a shame. As I say, people were living in hope. Do we have any hope? Bob's been dead many a year. Thank you, Dolby. Don't tempt fate. It has the last couple of weeks. So what I'm going to... Sorry, I was going to make this prediction and I kind of moved on. I'm just going to stay with this and I'm going to let you sit with this. Reform and Farage may get into power. But that's when the knives come out. And maybe Farage is bringing Muslims in to make him look like he's not racist. Just in a little fantasy world of my own, can you imagine what would happen to Farage and the Muslim Brotherhood? When people get anywhere near the power, they do weird and wonderful things. In my view, I don't trust a politician. I wouldn't pee on them if they were on fire. I hope they're not. That's just a metaphorical term, of course. It's not a real thing. Comic Mania, exactly. He's trying to... It's the optics. But I'm not sure that the people that would have voted for reform are going to vote for reform, because when they're staring at the ballot paper, are they actually going to put the cross there? So what I'm going to do in 2026 is I'm going to start digging deeper with these politicians, if they will allow me, and I'll interview them. I've already put 2 requests out today just to chat about stuff. Let's wait and see. The Bovril, I get it. It's a wow, broad brushstroke, but these Muslims are moderate ones. I think Farage may make number 10, but won't stay for long. Because once you're Prime Minister, there's every chance you can go to the House of Lords. That's all he wants, go to the House of Lords. Either the power or get your daily allowance from going to the House of Lords, breathing the very rare air. Stuart, the Rev interviewing Starmer would be some show. The problem is with the politicians in power, they don't want any gotchas. They don't want tripping up. Because Kunzberg, on the last time I saw him on Sunday morning, she was giving it to him quite hard. Back to pegging again. And no. Gribbo, credit me with some integrity. Reform is gone unless they bow to the trade unionist or unions. They have the power in this play. I get it, Geordie Nicholas. I get it. But let me talk to you about digital ID, because when I uncover the layers within this, because there's even confusion today. Some of my friends that are really, really intelligent people are going, digital ID's being scrapped. No, that's not what they said yesterday. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to layer this so you get it. You know that the Clintons are not a kick in the backside away from going to court and possibly to jail. That's why they're doing it the way they're doing it, because, well, lawyers are clever people. Lawyers can keep people out of jail. Didn't work for Jeffrey Epstein, did it? Oops. So digital ID has not been scrapped. So today's front pages of the newspapers, you have Rachel Reeves on the front of the Daily Mirror. Sorry, Rachel Reeves on the front of the Sun. Let me get this correct. Rachel Reeves on the front of the Sun newspaper about what she's doing to pubs and doing her knees politically. Now, remember, when Ginger Growler, it looked as if Ginger Growler was going to be the next Prime Minister of this country, because Labour, they know that Starmer's done and he's toxic and they want rid of him. He's going to be gone in a few months. He will resign. Starmer is going to resign. They'll just make it so uncomfortable for him that he'll just go, oh, here, lads, have your ball back. I'm not playing anymore. I'm off to see me mate Ali. That's Lord, not Muhammad. UK closes embassy in Tehran. Staff urgently evacuated. So why was Bibi Netanyahu with Trump in between Christmas and New Year? A dead period politically. So why was he there? Sorting out Iran. But again, I will tell you again. Syria and Iraq were two central banks that the Rothschilds needed control of before the UN's Agenda 2030, where they'll have everything in control by 2030. Now they've got Venezuela and they're going to have Iran this year. There's 4 countries out of all the digital, the central banks that they need for a full house. And you know that 2026, look, China is wobbling massively. And Trump is game on with China and with Russia and Putin. So Russia and China are 2 of the countries with the central bank that the Rothschilds want. There's only North Korea. And North Korea, well, it's just a diddly little fella that's funny. Kim Jong-un. So then, before 2027 or 2028, because Iran's just going to have regime change. The mullahs are going to go. The Shah, he's reappeared. The Shah, oh, hello, lads. Yeah, I'm the Shah of Iran, mate. Do you want me to go back in and run the country again? Brilliant. I'll make a few bob. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. So what I'm going to say to you is this. They're all at it. Doesn't matter whether it's royal or political. They're at it. And the mullahs, they're gone. By the end of 2026, you'll be saying, Jesus, what happened in Iran? Those brave souls that are taking on oppression and are losing their lives because of it. But it's all in the name of central bank control by the Rothschild family, who are worth, seemingly, about $500 trillion. And you thought Elon Musk was rich. So there's a fight for power. Labour leaders fight for power going on at the moment. So on the one hand, you have the front page of The Sun, literally mullering, pun intended, Rachel Reeves, Rachel from Accounts, who wasn't at PMQs today. Why? Well, a bit too early to go to Davos. But I think last year about this time she wasn't in the house either. Maybe she's gone to get a new wig. And then on the front of the Daily Mirror newspaper, you've got, oh yes, don't worry, we're going to sort £45 billion in rail infrastructure to pay off the Manchester Mafia. And there's Andy Burnham going, don't worry, lads, don't. We're getting 45 bill, so, you know, it's advantageous. And yeah, by May, I'll be an MP. So Starmer's literally 50p sixpence, 50p sixpence. What's that in Ukrainian? So if you read the front pages of the newspapers, you will absolutely categorically know that the Parliamentary Labour Party is at civil war. They're knifing each other in the front, let alone in the back. Lewis says, HS2, anyone? Well, HS2, again, nice money-making machine. So there's 45 billion, which they say is 45 billion. You can absolutely guarantee that give it 10 years, it'll be somewhere near $1 trillion. So as I was saying at the beginning of this, some of my really intelligent and close friends we're like, oh, digital ID's been scrapped. No, they haven't scrapped digital ID. They haven't even scrapped digital ID control. In my view, they scrapped the branding that was politically radioactive. So the checks go digital regardless. I think somebody in the chat said that that OneGov login, it's still there. The checks are going digital regardless. Now, I made a prediction, and I said to you, you've got to watch this carefully, because all that's going to happen is they're not going to do anything. They realize that politically it's toxic, it's radioactive. They're not going to touch it. But what they're going to do, and I gave you the example of the regional parliament in the northeast, where they were expecting the people to vote for it, so they set up the building, the parliament, they set everything up. They set the infrastructure up without telling you. So this digital ID, they've set the infrastructure up, whether you like it or not. And I said to you, what they're going to do is they're just going to step away from it because politically it's too toxic. The country doesn't like the idea, the concept, anything about it. And they will literally just leave. Now that the infrastructure is in place, they'll just leave it for the next government. And if that's reform, Nigel Farage, and if I'm not here anymore, what they're going to do is he's going to say to you, look, the world's moved on. Digital currencies, America, Europe, everywhere else, Australia, everywhere else in the world, they've got digital currencies, and you're lagging behind. So we need digital ID. And we'll get rid of all the incomers. So the citizen-facing symbol changes to reduce revolt. So what you're seeing and what you're experiencing is being changed to make sure that you don't revolt. I mean, are we on U-turn 13 or are we now on U-turn 14? These U-turns don't just weaken policy, they invite succession talk. I've already mentioned Farage and reform, because MPs smell vulnerability like blood in water. Reeves has been targeted on the front of the Sun today because she's both powerful and convenient. She's the lightning rod for tax, austerity by another name, and, more importantly, ambition. She wants to be the first Labour female Prime Minister. So, the question you're asking me whilst looking at these papers, all right, Clever Clogs, what's actually been scrapped? I'll tell you straight. Starmer's government hasn't binned the whole idea of digital ID. Of course they haven't. The Chinese Communist Party's giving him his orders. He's a Manchurian candidate. He's working on behalf of a foreign power, whether it's WEF or the Chinese Communist Party, whether he thinks he's Johnny Big Bollocks and clever. He's a... Oh, look, man, I've excreted cleverer stuff than that, man. So the reported U-turn, I would suggest, is narrower. The plan to make a digital ID itself mandatory, specifically for proving right to work, has been dropped. Well, I would offer you this. If I was a lawyer, I'd say right then, I put it to you, it's been softened up, so it becomes optional, with people allowed to use other routes to prove status, whether it's your passport or an existing digital immigration status or your driving license. Because they used to, even a year or 18 months ago, they were just asking, have you got any form of ID with your picture on it? Yeah. God, you don't take a good passport photo, do you? I didn't think anybody did. Well, not this one, Mr. Allen. Jesus, I'll put that above the fireplace and I'll keep the kids away from the fire. But crucially, the government's position still seems to be right to work checks stay mandatory, but the digital ID card app won't be the single choke point. A consultation is reportedly coming on what the verification method should be. And that distinction matters. It's the difference between employers must check you can work, to quote some queer as folk bloke. And that's already normal. It's already in place. Or you personally must enroll into this specific state system or you can't earn a living. So why they've rowed back the real drivers of this whole digital ID thing? A few forces converged at the same time. Our trust jumped off a cliff. Public trust started falling through the floor. Polling and political coverage over the last few months or so described a sharp drop in support after the announcement. The policy became entangled with broader anger at government and control state fear. A mass petition, a sustained pushback turned it into a lightning rod. The official UK Parliament petition opposing digital ID cards drew millions of signatures before it closed. Now, whether you love or loathe petitions, ministers can count. Big numbers equal political shrapnel. Digital exclusion is a genuine problem, not just a footnote. So, the reporting on the U-turn explicitly flags concerns about older folk, rural connectivity, and inclusivity. In other words, and you can quote me on this, we can't build a system where no smartphone becomes no job. They're now trying to reframe the whole project as convenience, not compulsion. Even before today, I've told you before, I've deleted the NHS app off my phone. I won't log into OneGov. I'm not interested. And now, my doctor's surgery, because they can smell I'm a cash cow and I'm going to make them some money. Hello, Adrian. It's doctor surgery here. Are you going to come in and have your arm chopped off? It'll make us a few bob. No, you're fine. Thanks very much. I had at least 20 text alerts over winter going, oh, we'll give you a free jibber jabber. We'll give you a free flu jab. Just come in and we'll combine it with Charlie 19. Hello. Is that the doctor's surgery? Oh, hello, Mr. Allen. How are you? I'm bloody brilliant. I haven't got the flu. I haven't got the cold. So you can stick your jibber jabber where the sun don't shine. Oh, I say, Mr. Allen, no need to be like that. Well, you started it. You sent me the bloody text. So even before today, the government was already shifting tone. They appointed a minister to reset the messaging, selling it as, we're just going to streamline access to services. Aye, right, mate. While they insisted the compulsion would be limited, at least initially, to right-to-work checks. Told you before, you can't be just a little bit pregnant. It was the real-world metaphorical equal of, I'm just going to put the tip in. So you see, this looks less like a moral conversion and more like a tactical retreat to me. Keep the machinery, remove the part that makes people feel trapped. So let's decode this properly, because the headline is wearing a Halloween mask. You'll hear, Starmer has scrapped mandatory digital IDs, like some of my friends. And many people will breathe out like they've just been told the taxman can't climb through the telly. But the truth, as ever, is a little more surgical than that. What's been scrapped isn't the idea of digital identity. What's been softened is the compulsory bit. The bit where a digital ID becomes the one ring that rules them all. The one app you must kneel to. The one login to get permission to earn a wage. So let's separate the layers. Layer 1, right to work checks. These are not new. Employers have to verify people can legally work. I mean, when I've applied in the past, it's like, are you a resident here? Are you allowed to apply for this? Tick. I mean, that's a long-standing part of the system. Layer 2 is how that verification happens. That's where government got ambitious and, I would suggest, a bit clumsy. The plan was moving toward a future where, to prove you can work, you'd need a digital ID. And the reporting today suggests Starmer has stepped back from making that specific tool mandatory. But why? Because, as you and I both know, Great Britain has an allergy, a deep, historic, ancestral allergy to anything that looks like internal papers, please. We don't like being herded. I mean, I know there's quite a few sheep who live on this sceptred isle, but we just don't like being herded. We don't like being told, register or you don't exist. And the government has now realised it had created the perfect storm. If your ability to work depends on a digital ID, then the digital ID isn't a convenience, it's a lever. And the working man and woman on the street understands levers. The working man and woman understand what it means when one system becomes the gateway to employment, rent, travel, benefits, healthcare, services. Because once you build a gate, the question isn't whether it will be used, it's who holds the keys and what will they demand next. So now the government says the U-turn is about public trust and inclusion. That they don't want to alienate people, especially those who are digitally excluded. Older citizens, rural communities, people without reliable connectivity, people who don't live their life through a smartphone. And on that point, fair, because no phone, no job is not modernisation. It's a new kind of poverty trap, in my view. But don't miss the other driver, political heat. There's been a huge petition against digital ID cards, and the digital ID conversation became a magnet for every fear about surveillance and control 1984. And the press coverage over recent months described collapsing public support after the plans were announced. I mean, I know from the lives that I've done when I've mentioned digital ID, the balloon goes up. So I think what we're watching is government doing what governments do when the streets get loud. They don't necessarily stop building the road, they just move the bulldozers to a night shift and change the sign from compulsory to optional. Now here's the key line for you and I, the working man and woman. If the ID is optional, you keep choice. Choice matters because it's friction, and friction is freedom. Now, if you can prove status using existing routes, your passport, driver license, existing immigration status systems, or other documentation, then you're not forced into one pipeline. And that means fewer people get locked out of work because they're not digitally perfect. Fewer people are coerced into enrolling in a system they simply don't trust. Fewer employers can shrug and say, computer says no. But, and this is the big but, Sir Mix-a-Lot, I like big butts. This big but is the kind that needs its own postcode, that size, Sir Mix-a-Lot. It also means the project may still continue, just with softer edges. Because the government has already been talking about digital identity as a broader public service modernisation tool. Smoother access to childcare, welfare, local services, the cut the faff pitch. And once the system exists, the temptation is always mission creep. You can't put the bloody genie back in the bottle. The government, it's the government. They're always at mission creep. And not necessarily because of evil moustache twirling villains. Sometimes it's just big government, bureaucracy. A department notices the new tool solves their problem, and suddenly optional becomes default, then strongly encouraged, and then required for efficiency. So what does this mean for the working man and woman? The one who just wants to get on with life, go to work, enjoy the family life, get paid, and not be treated like a barcode. Or a Newcastle United supporter. It's a win for practical freedom. You shouldn't need the latest handset and a flawless signal to put food on the table. Making digital ID optional acknowledges that reality. And it's also a warning. The state heard you. The U-turn is proof the public still has weight. Petitions, pressure, relentless questioning. It moves the dial. But the verification direction of travel remains. So right-to-work checks aren't going away, and the government still wants more digitised checking. The argument is about the method, not the existence of checks. So the real fight in all of this is now shifting to safeguards. If digital ID remains in the ecosystem, and I would suggest to you that it is, then the questions become: what data is stored, who can access it, what happens when it fails, like the Russians hacking the system again, and can you opt out without being penalised? Can the system be expanded without a vote? See, those are the questions that decide whether digital reform is a tool in your hand or a leash on your wrist. So yes, today's move looks like a retreat from compulsion. But don't celebrate like the war is over. I mean, the hashtag together, they're saying it's a massive win. It's a win, but there's, what's the old saying and phrase? Many a slip twixt cup and lip. The government doesn't like being told what to do. So the government just goes quiet and gets on with it anyway. So you won't, after today, you won't read any more, maybe tomorrow morning, but after that, you won't read any more in the newspapers. They won't give you any more reportage. They won't give you any more information, which is why I've done such a deep dive on it this evening. So don't celebrate like the war is over. Celebrate like you've just won a hill. And keep your boots on. Because in modern Britain, the state rarely takes a step back forever. It simply comes back later wearing a different tie. So you've got all the demonstrations all over Europe, in France and in the Netherlands and Spain and here with the farmers. You've got all these demonstrations. And you'll have Ursula von der Leyen, bitch, at Davos next week going, oh, well, we have to earn trust. She did that 2 years ago. They haven't earned our trust. It's just gotten worse for them. So they'll build the infrastructure first, lock it in intentionally, make it politically untouchable, then they'll U-turn on compulsion. Not because they've changed their mind, but because they no longer need to force it. You know I'm a cynical old tart. That wasn't necessarily cynicism. I'm just recognizing the pattern. I'll tell it to you again. They're going to build the infrastructure first. Tick. They'll lock it in intentionally. Tick. Make it politically untouchable. Well, they're wavering a bit now. And then they'll U-turn on compulsion. Not because they've changed their mind, but because they no longer need to force it. And what we're seeing today under Sir Keir Starmer fits that pattern like a key in a lock. So why does the infrastructure matter more than the law? Here's the thing that most people have missed. And this is the heart of my decoded angle. Laws are reversible. Infrastructure is destiny. So once you've built identity verification rails, employer-facing digital checking systems, interoperability with banking, housing, benefits, healthcare, and more importantly, international alignment commitments like Seville. Have you noticed how hardly anybody's noticed the Seville commitment? I mean, how slack is that? When you take all of that, then no future government can simply scrap digital ID in any meaningful sense. They can pause it, they can rename it, rebadge it, soften the language, make it voluntary, but they cannot unwind the plumbing without detonating half the administrative state. And they know it. That's why the point I made about reform and the Seville commitment and about the infrastructure being there and the whole world, WEF, China, America's getting this. They'll just plow ahead. And then it'll get to a point where they go, Nigel Farage will stand up in the House of Commons as Prime Minister and go, right, we tried not to, but you're struggling because you can't get this. So we're just going to roll it out. It's not compulsory, but to use any government departments, you're going to need one. So then it becomes voluntary. Even a hostile future government inherits the machinery already humming beneath the floorboards. So I'll reiterate the Seville commitment. That's been the quiet lock-in. And that's not after hours in a pub. This is the bit that separates instinct from insight. International commitments don't shout. They bind. So Tony Blair and Robin Cook, the treaties of Nice and Rome, meant that we couldn't protect our borders. Tony Blair that signed that away. And I was told by somebody who was, as a source, impeccable. Tony Blair only had one job when he became Prime Minister in 97. That was to get us into Europe so that we couldn't get out of Europe. So once the UK aligns its systems with international digital identity standards, even loosely, I mean, we've got the Schengen Agreement across the whole of Europe for policing. We never left the Schengen Agreement, but it's just sitting there. So once we align with the international digital identity standards, it's no longer just a domestic policy. It's a compatibility obligation, which means walking it back breaks trade harmonization. Oh, the bloody Europeans, the French and the German economies are tanking. And he's taken us in by the back door again. Rolling back digital ID creates border friction. They'll do that, or you'll have to wait half an hour in a queue to get your passport stamped. And dismantling digital ID becomes irresponsible governance. So the state does what the state always does. Build first, argue later. Pretend the argument was the point. And why was this U-turn inevitable? Well, making it mandatory too early was the mistake. Compulsion triggers public resistance, moral language, historical memory, that deep British instinct that says, oi, 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 hang on, no. So they corrected course, they pivoted. Not because the destination changed, but because the timing was wrong. Optional is the pressure release valve. Optional is how you let the system bed in quietly. Employers adopt it because it's easier. Departments default to it because it's efficient. Citizens drift into it because it's convenient. And 5 years later, nobody remembers a moment when they chose it. That's not conspiracy. That's governance by inertia. So this is what it means to the working man and woman. This isn't over. It's just de-escalated. The argument has moved from should this exist to how fast does it normalise? Choice still matters, for now. As long as alternatives exist, there's friction. Friction is freedom's last defence. The real risk is silent default. Not force, not police, just this is the easiest way now. Governments don't U-turn because they lose power. They U-turn because they've already secured it. But as this is how modern power operates, not with boots, but with back-end systems. See, I wasn't predicting politics. I was reading the architecture. And architecture outlasts ministers. It's the same playbook, different wrapper. So let me just, I know that you're listening intently, but I just want to say this to you before I close. Smash the likes and get it over 100, you wrong'un. So tonight we've walked through shadows. We've looked at power families, digital gates, political theatre, and the machinery humming behind the curtain. And if you're feeling a little unsettled now, good. Because that means you were awake. Because the point of evenings like this isn't outrage, it's orientation. So when we talk about the Clintons, we're not gossiping about people, we're examining systems that outlive individuals. Thank you, Stuart. Really appreciate it. Thank you, young sir. When we talk about digital ID, we're not afraid of technology. We're asking who holds the keys, who writes the rules, and what happens when consent quietly becomes compliance. And when we talk about the Labour Party or Trump or anyone else, we're not playing red versus blue, left versus right. We're talking about a political class that has learned something very important. Attention is governance now. The old levers were laws and armies. The new levers are distraction, speed, and fatigue. Keep people tired. Keep them arguing. Keep them scrolling. And they won't notice the architecture being built around them. They won't notice that choice is slowly being replaced with default. That debate is being replaced with process. That democracy is being wrapped in user-friendly language whilst its spine is quietly re-engineered. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This doesn't require villains twirling mustaches in dark rooms. It works because it's incremental, baby steps, sensible, framed as safety, framed as convenience, framed as just keeping up with the modern world. You heard me say that earlier. That's going to come out of Farage's mouth once he's Prime Minister. Just keeping up with the modern world. Most cages are built with good intentions. That's why digital ID is never sold as control. It's sold as efficiency, security, inclusion. But history teaches us something brutal and simple. Infrastructure never forgets its purpose, even when politicians change their promises. What can be used will eventually be used. What can be centralized will eventually be leveraged. Not today, possibly not tomorrow, when the temperature changes. And mark my words, it always changes. The same applies to political dynasties and institutional power. Names rotate, faces age, but the network remains. The lawyers, the donors, the NGOs, the foundations, the consultancies. Power doesn't vanish when it loses an election. It simply changes clothes and waits for the next cycle. This is why, if we go back to the beginning of the live tonight, this is why distraction matters. This is why stories flare and vanish. This is why tonight's scandal replaces yesterday's revelation before it's fully understood. The goal isn't to convince you of one lie. It's to exhaust you until you stop asking which story matters. But here's the good news. And it matters. You don't have to swallow every narrative to be informed. You don't have to pick a tribe to be awake. And you don't have to hate the world to see it clearly. Awareness doesn't require rage. It requires stillness. Stillness lets you notice patterns. Stillness lets you ask better questions. Stillness is the enemy of manipulation. That's why gatherings here at the Body of the Kirk matter, not as a show, not as a spectacle, but as a pause. A place where people slow down together and remember that clarity is a form of resistance. You don't win by shouting louder than the machine. You win by seeing it. So take what we've talked about tonight and hold it lightly. Don't turn it into fear. Turn it into discernment. Watch what disappears from the front pages. Watch what is always framed as inevitable. Watch what you're told is for your own good, without your consent ever being asked. And above all, protect your attention. It's the most valuable thing you own today in 2026. Spend it wisely, guard it fiercely, and never hand it over to anyone who benefits from you being confused or frightened, or more importantly, divided. We'll pick this up again Sunday, 7:30, and the thinking continues. So thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, your indulgence. Thank you. Be well, stay safe. Emergency Battenberg is always an advantage. You never know when you're going to get caught short. My name's Adrian Allen. This is the Theatre of the Mind. Live 281. This is not a show. This is a mission. It's a mission for truth. And it continues Sunday, 7:30. If no one's heard of the channel, or any of your relatives or family or friends unaware of it, let them know that all we're trying to do is give perspective, context, and understanding. Look after yourself. I shall see you Sunday, 7:30. Parish note 7:15, of course.